Good evening and welcome back to our Parshah webcast. Today's Parshah is the Parshah of Teitzei, another loaded Parshah with many mitzvahs and many topics, and it opens up with the laws of soldiers that go to war and they find a captive woman, if they're allowed to marry them, if they're not allowed to marry them, the conditions in that situation. Goes on to laws of inheritance, that you have to give equal, you have to allow the firstborn always gets twice, double portion, and even if you have your firstborn is from a woman that you don't like, and your other children are from a woman that you do like, you're not allowed to show favoritism to the children of the wife that you do like. You have to give them their portions and so on, that is rightfully theirs. And then it talks about the wayward son, a very harsh subject of a child that is to be killed and put to death if he's what we call in Hebrew ben seder umeira, a rebellious child. It's very difficult to meet those conditions that that qualify to become a ben seder umeira. In fact, one of the rabbis in the Talmud says that there never has been a case of a ben seder umeira. There's actually a dispute. As one rabbi said, I saw once a ben seder umeira stoned at the hands of the Sanhedrin, and one said it never happened, never will happen. So either way, it's definitely not a common occurrence that.
It's important not to be mentioned in there, though.
It's very important.
So but
there has to be a reason for that.
Throwing stone on them.
They
killed people by throwing
yes,
stone on them.
Yes.
That's they did.
Yeah.
I promise I won't.
Then it talks about the mitzvah importance of burying a person on the day that he dies, not to postpone it. Later it talks about the mitzvah of helping another fellow if you see his donkey is falling under its load, and returning lost objects. You can't make as if you didn't see it. You have to be a moral and ethical person. You can't play games with that. Hashem is looking. He knows if you saw it, if you didn't. It might be difficult to return an object. You'll say, why bother? I don't have to deal with it. I'll walk by and not pick it up. Hashem doesn't allow you to do that. You have to pick it up and go through the effort of returning a lost object. Then you have the law of the mother bird, sending away the mother bird when you take the chicks, the bags. Talks then about when a person builds a new home, to build a parapet on the top, on the roof, so that no one falls off. In those days, the houses were on different levels, so if there was no parapet, a person could literally fall because they would walk on roofs like that was a common occurrence because they went down from their house onto someone else's roof. I mean, there was different levels in the city, so a roof needed a parapet, otherwise you fall off. So there's a mitzvah to build a parapet. Then there's mitzvah against shatnez, against wearing a garment that is woven with wool and linen, Semeru Pishtim, right? And then there's the law of not working with two species of animals together. And then we get to the law of the Moitzi Shemra. If someone married a virgin, and then he wakes up in the next morning and he comes to court and says she was not a virgin. She committed adultery after I betrothed her, and between me betrothing her and me taking her into my house, she committed adultery. So if they find out that is true, she is put to death. But if not, then the husband that did this is in trouble. He has to pay. He's never allowed to divorce her. Well, that's not in our portion, actually. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
No, that's not in our portion. What's in our portion is that if she was raped, and it's not her fault that she lost her virginity, then of course you can't do anything to her, because it's not her fault. God forbid such a thing should happen. And
in the old days, the parents
talks about a rape of a husband, of a person, huh?
In the old day, the parents kept the virginity, and then they can't come and bring it. Yeah.
You bring it? You bring
Talks about, then he goes into who's allowed to marry into the Jewish people, who not. A mamzer is not allowed to. And other types of defects are bar a person from marrying a Jewish woman. He talks about a Ammonite and a Moabite who converted are not allowed to marry the Jewish people, and so on, ever. They're never allowed to marry the Jewish people, so a convert that comes from a Moabite family is in trouble.
How do we know today?
You don't, so therefore we don't we assume that the majority of the people are not Ammonites or Moabites, so any convert can marry a Jewish person today, basically. And he goes on and on and on, till it gets to the law of divorce. The law of divorce is a very interesting one. I'll zero in on that law today. It goes on to so many different things. I mean, it will take us just a half hour just to enumerate all the different mitzvahs in this portion. So we'll get to the law of marriage and divorce. I see everyone's laughing. There. The law reads as follows. If a man marries a woman, listen to this carefully. If a man marries a woman and lives with her, and it will be that she will not find favor in his eyes, for he found in her a matter of immorality. And he wrote her a bill of divorce and presented it to her, into her hand, and sent her from his house. And she shall leave his house and go and marry another man. And the latter man hated her and wrote her a bill of divorce and presented it into the hand and sent her from his house. Or when the latter man who married her to himself will die, her first husband who divorced her shall not again take her to become his wife. Once she has been defiled, for it is an abomination before Hashem.
She has no Muslim.
You could
Right.
One second.
Wait, he has to
Let's
take
not
her
joke.
back?
No, we cannot.
we can't.
If he does, what the Torah is telling us over here is
If she
like
got
this.
married in
If you
between.
divorced a woman and she married someone else, and that person divorced her or he died, and she's once again available, her first husband is not allowed to marry her. Once she was married to someone else, that's it. But if she was not married to someone else, he is allowed to take her back. If he so desires, if she wants, they both agreed, no problem. I said if they both agreed that they should remarry, they can remarry. If she has not yet married someone else. But here's an interesting thing. The Torah says, and I'm going to read this now in the Hebrew and then translate it again. If a man if a man marries a woman and lives with her, it'll happen if she does not find favor in his eyes. He found in her a matter of immorality, so then he should write her a bill of divorce. So here the rabbis got into a major argument as to what would be considered grounds for divorce. And the rabbis argue it out as follows. This is a very interesting argument. There's, of course, Bet Shamai and Bet Hilel are part of this argument, and Rabbi Akiva. Bet Shamai says, he reads the verse quite clearly. You're not allowed to divorce unless you found in her a matter of immorality. You remember, this is your bashert. Hashem created your one soul. You were one soul at the beginning when you were brought down into this world. You were split into two for a number of years, and then you were brought back together to reunite in marriage. So you can't just walk away from each other. You are one. But if she behaved in a manner that is completely immoral, so then Bet Shamai says, in such a case, you're not allowed to live with her, so you have to give her a divorce. Clear?
Mm-hmm.
It's straightforward. But other than that, Without a reason like that, you don't just divorce. And he doesn't allow you to divorce. You're not allowed to if you don't have that reason. That's the opinion of Bet Shamai. Beis Hillel is of a different opinion. He says, no. That if he's allowed to divorce her, even if she intentionally abuses him. For example, even if she goes and burns his food every night. She burnt his food. She intentionally burns his food, so you shouldn't have good food. Huh?
We learned that in that class.
Right.
My wife burned it, but not intentionally.
So that's a
You
shame.
don't have a choice.
But she doesn't burn it every night, does she?
It doesn't matter as long as it's not intentional.
If it's every night, it's intentional, believe me. But it's not every night. But if she burns his
That's
food
why I'm vegetarian.
intentionally every night, all the time, in other words, she's looking to, even if it's not every night, even if it's not, we'll talk about that in a minute, even if it's not every night, if it does, even if she does it occasionally, she just wants to hurt him. She burns his food. So she's an abusive wife. Beis Hillel says you don't have to stay with someone like this. That's already a reason, a grounds for divorce. You have to live under someone's abuse. No, you don't have to. Goodbye. But Rabbi Akiva is of a more radical opinion. He says that even if you found another woman who looks more pleasing to you than your wife, you can divorce your wife and marry this other woman. That's grounds for divorce. That's what Rabbi Akiva says in the
That's very
Gemara.
surprising because his wife waited for him a very long
Right,
time
exactly.
while he was away.
Right, yeah. So he says that. So how do we explain these three opinions? They're very strange. I think the obvious question over here is like this. Beis Shamai and Beis Hillel are known to always have their disputes. And when they dispute, it's 99% of the time, Beis Shamai is always more strict than Beis Hillel. He's always more strict than Hillel. Beis Hillel. But when you analyze this case, it looks like Beis Shamai is more lenient. He's saying that you're not allowed to divorce, and then he's protecting the woman more. He's being more lenient to the woman. He's saying, you're not going to divorce, so he's not letting the man go so quickly. If you have very good reason, yeah, but if not, not. Beis Hillel seems to be, more harsh on the woman. Even if it's a less offense, he's already giving the husband the license to divorce him. He's more harsh on the woman than Beis Shamai is. So first, that's a very interesting thing because it's usually the other way around. Beis Shamai is always more strict. So you would think that he'd be more strict and tell the wife, you better behave. Because if not, you're going to be in trouble. But no, he's very lenient. Beis Hillel turns out to be the one the most strict. At least from the woman's perspective. And then take a look at Rabbi Akiva is altogether a radical view. You walk in the street, you find someone that's a little more attractive, so that's already a grounds for that. What is the meaning of this? Well, how could that be? How could that be? Beis Hillel is the one that promoted the idea of ahavta l'reacha kamecha. You shall love your fellow as you love yourself. He promoted the idea that was the cardinal rule of the Torah, to love your fellow. So he's going to let people get out of a commitment of a marriage and drop the wife because of what? Because of something. Even, I'll tell you further, in our society, if you told a secular person that hardly believes in anything, you told him that I divorced my wife because I found someone one night somewhere in the marketplace that was a little nicer than, he'd think of you as an immoral, despicable human being, and he would be right. So how is it possible that Rabbi Akiva can even promote such an idea? Let alone rule that this should be the halacha.
I think you have to read more into it.
Huh?
I don't think you can
Yeah,
take
it's
it
not
as
just
face
from the
value.
surface, right?
Right.
Well,
I think it's
I'm just telling you what he says.
Yeah.
I want to first about Shammai. You say it's more flexible, but you can say it's tough. Because
On the husband.
On the side of the marriage, it's good.
Yeah.
But on the side of life, it's not so good.
Why not?
Because he doesn't give flexibility to life that you can, somebody is not good, you can pick somebody else. For
Right.
a marriage purpose, it's good. You made your bed, you stick to it.
But for what is it not good?
It's
For
not,
the husband. For the wife, he's lenient. For the husband, he's more strict. Right?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying, basically.
Now, it works both ways. If the man is abusive, then
No,
the
no,
woman has the right
basic-
to divorce too.
The
Basi-
woman, one second, in
No
Jewish
right.
law,
Divide
Jewish
between
law.
Jewish
marriage
law,
No right.
and life.
the woman doesn't write a divorce. The
I
woman
divide in-
accepts a divorce. Meaning the husband has to be the initiator of a divorce
Right.
in Jewish
The
law.
woman can have the day.
She can ask for it, but the husband has to agree to it.
You don't get a get,
He
you don't
must
get a
agree
get.
to it.
Yeah.
But
That's
it can be
biblical
forced.
law. That's biblical law.
And
In
to
Jewish
divorce-
law, one second, in rabbinic law, they stepped in and made rules where they said that a woman cannot be divorced against her will. It has to be, both have to agree. So in the bottom line, there's no,
Really?
you can't, what?
So now they both have to agree?
Yeah, yeah.
And,
in Jewish law.
and Akiva went with what's life really present itself. You go to war. You kill all the men and all the boy. You leave all the women and the girls. You leave. Now, your heart desire. Yes, you have to conquer your heart. But you see a beautiful woman.
So he's a- so you
he
should-
say you can take
So
it.
you could take it and just divorce your wife.
In a way, that's what he said.
I
don't
know what he
justify
said,
it.
and
I
you're
don't
justifying. I don't understand how you can justify
I
something.
don't justify.
So
it.
what are you saying? You explained it to me what he says. I know what he says.
I
I know what
explain
he says.
reality.
The reality is what? That
The
people,
reality you
that
go to
people are
war.
weak.
We went to a lot of wars.
The reality is that people have big Yetzer and Rabbi Akiva is saying, go ahead and give in. That's basically what he's saying. You have a big Yetzer and I'm going to let you succumb to
I
it.
say where
What kind of an answer? What kind of an opinion is
To
this?
my, yeah.
What?
Oh, answer
He
you in
is-
a minute.
He is addressing the Yetzer of a person, and he's basically saying, follow the Yetzer. That should be Jewish law.
Which
I don't
is very
think you say that.
uncharacteristic.
Very uncharacteristic of Rabbi Akiva at all.
Right,
Right.
right,
So here's the way the Rebbe explains it. So she mentioned that we learned this in the JLI.
right.
And the JLI explained it on legal terms. Beautifully. It was very well done. But that time doesn't permit that, so I want to talk about it from a more spiritual point of view. So I'm going to read to you this pasuk again, and I'm going to explain it to you as it relates to the cosmic husband and wife, which are God and the Jewish people. And, in addition to that, every shlichus, every mission a person has, is a marriage of sorts. You took on a mission to teach. You're a teacher. It's a marriage. You got married to your job. It's a relationship. I took on a mission to be a shliach in Weston. I'm married to the shlichus. It's a marriage of sorts. It's a commitment. I'm bound. I'm united with this mission. My soul is united with this mission. That's why I was sent down here to earth. It's not just by accident I ended up over here, or by accident that you ended up as a teacher, or you ended up as whatever, as a senator or a congressman, whatever God put you to. You have a reason why you're there. You have a mission there. Now, the question is, every marriage, if there's to be marriage, the institution of marriage can only survive if there's the institution of divorce. You need to be able to have the right to divorce in a regular marriage, yeah? If you're not going to have divorce, you'll never have a normal institution of marriage, because people will abuse it. If a wife knows that the husband is stuck, if the husband knows that the wife is stuck, it's garnished. Why do I have to be a mensch? Why do I have to be nice to her? Why does she have to be nice to him? They can't leave me anyway. They're stuck with me. So what kind of marriage? If you don't have the option for divorce, you don't have a marriage.
Yes, true.
There's no marriage.
I love that.
That's the truth.
I love
It's
that.
obvious. The divorce, Hashem put in place the idea of divorce in order that the marriage should thrive. Now, in the marriage between a Yid's neshama and his shlichus in the world, sometimes people get tired of their mission. They're sick and tired. They get their midlife crisis. They're burnt out. It's tough, and they're not seeing success. It was better 5 years ago. Today, things changed where I am, and I just want to go to somewhere else and take on a new profession. And I hate that teaching is not for me anymore. I want to become, I don't know, something else. So Rabbi Hilel and Bet Shamai and Rabbi Akiva are debating this issue. When are you allowed to take upon yourself to divorce yourself from the mission you had till now and go and marry a new mission, a new shlichus, a new place in life? You see, just like a marriage, Bet Shamai says you're married to this woman is because your souls are one. You can't just walk away. You're not comfortable with her. She burnt your food. That's not enough to break up a marriage. Would you break up your child's relationship with you because you burnt your food? You can't, right? Because you're unable to. He says a marriage is that important. It's very important. So, you're one soul. God put you together. It's not by accident. We're not going to let you just walk away from that union. It's an important union. You have to build a life together. You're meant to be together. If there's no choice, there's no choice. He lets you go because if there's a matter of immorality and there's adultery or whatever else, then there's no choice. But short of that, you're one. You're one. Bet Shamai has the same attitude towards the idea of the neshama and the shlichus that it's fulfilling in this world. God put you there. Who are you to walk away from it? So he says you're not allowed to change your shlichus. No one gave it to you by choice, and you're not going away from it by choice. Hashem put you there. He'll do it. Only when He takes you out of there. He does give a license for divorce in the case of immorality. So Rabbi Shammai would apply the same law when it comes to divorcing yourself from your shlichus. What would be the idea of immorality in the shlichus of the neshama in this world? If you come to a place and, I'll just give you an example. You come to a place where it's impossible to live there like a frumah Yid. It's impossible. Living there necessitates dropping the lifestyle of a religious, of Torah mitzvahs. I don't know, today's days it's not really so, it's almost,
the computer and
be a
everything.
frumah Yid everywhere. It's, you can even teach your kids in an online school. You don't need to be in anything. You can ship food, you can have a school online. But not everyone can live a lifestyle like that. Some people could. A Chabad shliach could, but not everyone could. Not everyone's strong enough to be able to do that. So if you end up in a place and you realize this place is dragging me down completely, I can't live as a frumah Yid. I can never go to a shul. I can never daven, which means I can't do it. The Shammai says, in such a case you can live. But only in such a case. Only in such a case.
So why does he say if you see someone more attractive?
No, he doesn't. That's Rabbi Akiva.
Oh, okay.
Rabbi
Rabbi Shammai said only if you're found in a matter of immorality. If a Jew is starting to be immoral, he's not able to live according to the dictates of Torah mitzvahs, then you can leave. Basil says no. You can walk away even if there's a lesser problem. Higdicha tafshila, she burnt his food. What does burnt his food mean? Before you came to that place, that shlichus, you were on fire. You were inspired. You lived a life of Torah mitzvahs that was completely dedicated 100%. You had a koch, you had a zest, you had an enthusiasm. He says, suddenly you come to a place, and this shlichus, this place of your mission, is beginning to beginning to cool you off. It's not. You're still keeping Shabbos. You're still keeping the mitzvahs, but you don't have that fire that you had before. The food, the spirit, the geschmack, the joy of your Yiddishkeit is beginning to be compromised. And that may be violating Torah mitzvahs, mamish immorality, spiritual immorality. It's not at that level. But you don't have the same, it's beginning to compromise your joy, your enthusiasm, your hidur mitzvah, your meticulous in the mitzvahs, your meticulousness in mitzvahs. Bet Shamai says, get out of there quickly because you're the bad news. You don't have to wait till you become immoral completely spiritually. If you're beginning to lose your fire, you can walk away. It's not for you. You're allowed to leave. Rabbi Akiva says, you don't have to wait for that. He says, if you hear that there's another community that you think will be nicer for you and more enjoyable, go. Person is supposed to enjoy his shlichus in this world. If you find favor, another woman, another shlichus finds more favor in your eyes, go. More attractive, go. Gesundheit. Drop this and go. What's so funny?
He's very liberal.
That's what he says. If you find another shlichus more attractive, you can leave. Because you'll do it with more excitement.
You shouldn't have to suffer.
Shouldn't have to compromise anything. Forget suffer. You don't have to compromise anything. Rabbi Akiva is of the opinion that when it comes to Yiddishkeit, you're the focus, in other words. If that shlichus is compromising even your joy, forget about your fire, your meticulousness in mitzvahs, your spiritual purity, but even that. That means like this, the person is not compromising an iota. He's just not excited. He's not excited about this particular job, this shlichus. Go. You find someone that has something else more attractive, go. Divorce this shlichus and go take on a new shlichus. According to whom does the halacha follow? What's the bottom line halacha, In marriage, in literal marriage.
Sure.
When are you allowed to
Akiva?
divorce a person? No,
not
the
Akiva.
middle, your base hill. You don't have to wait till she's totally immoral. But if she
Just
just,
if she burns your food?
if she intends to, she's abusing. She's an abusive wife. She's an abusive wife, you can leave. So the Rebbe says like this, in the marriage of you with your shlichus, with your station in life, with the place where you live, with that which God put in your plate. Again, these three opinions. One says you can never leave unless it's compromising your Yiddishkeit altogether. Basil says if it's compromising your fire in Yiddishkeit, your meticulousness, you're beginning to feel something is compromised, even if you're not immoral, you're not violating Shabbos, and you're still davening 3 times a day, but you're not davening with such a fire. You're not, you're starting to cut corners, so to say. You can leave. But if if you just think that shlichus is more attractive, under no circumstances could you leave. That means like this: if you're not compromised, you're just sick and tired, you're burnt out, you're staying with it. You're not divorcing this. You have no right to divorce against halacha. So first I want to analyze that for a minute, and then I want to add to that what the Rebbe says in that opinion of Bizhil as well, in addition. So first the opinion itself. every one of you here around this table has been given by God a mission in life. You think that you're in your store just to make money. You're there to tell a word and to inspire another person that comes into your business. Through the making money, you can inspire people. You have a shlichus in this world. You have a family. You have a place where you live. You have a community. You don't just walk away. You don't just walk away. Who gives you the right? You're divorcing your shlichus in this world because another shlichus is a little more attractive. What kind of a mishugas is that? The halacha is that is unacceptable. As long as the place where you live is not compromising your morality and even your hidur, you're not allowed to move. Sorry. You don't have the gishmak, you don't have the joy. Something else is more attractive. Work harder and let this place become attractive again to you. Let that shlichus become more attractive to you again. That's the law. But if it's beginning to start feeling heavy on you, where you're feeling that it's hard and there's a little bit something compromised, your fire is gone. He says you're allowed to leave. Says the Rebbe that even then he just says you're allowed to leave. He doesn't say you have to leave. That means that better yet, if a person has the license to divorce his wife, would you say, well, you have the license, go ahead and do it? No normal person would say such a thing. Just because halachically you're allowed to divorce someone doesn't mean you should. You should go the extra mile to make sure the marriage works, of course. So the Rebbe says the same thing over here. The fact that the Beis Hillel says you're allowed to doesn't mean you have to. A person should always go the extra mile in the shlichus in life. That means in practical terms. I was sent over here as a shliach. So for me, there's no question that I can't leave. The Rebbe has to allow me to leave. And he will never allow me to leave. The Rebbe never allowed anyone to leave a shlichus. Not that I know of, maybe one time in 50 years. But not everyone over here is a shliach of the Rebbe. Sometimes we come, let's talk about Weston, for example, because we're here. Yeah? A person lives there because he found a job. He found a nice house. He liked it. Passes 10 years, 15, 20 years, he's bored. Like to find a new shlichus, a new place to live, a new exciting place. Yeah, some people say, I'm going to move to a big Jewish community, for example. Big Jewish community. It's going to enhance my Yiddishkeit. And it could be a will. In some cases it will. In some cases it won't. In some cases it's just a disaster that happened. But in some cases it does, legitimately. Some place you go to a bigger community and you can have more of a... You have big community, there's so much more going on, and there's Yiddishkeit all around you, you're not challenged, it's just... You're swept in, it's a machaya, it's a joy, no question. I lived in big Jewish communities. I know how enjoyable it is. So the question becomes, wait a minute, you're sent, you were brought over here by divine providence. Do you have the right to divorce yourself from this shlichus? Everyone has a shlichus here. Everyone's here for a reason. Do you have the right to pick up and leave? The Rebbe says, I'm not so fast. Beis Hillel says, if you feel that your fire for Yiddishkeit is compromised, you can leave. Doesn't mean you have to. Divorce is a harsh thing. Hashem cries by a divorce, it says. Hashem cries every time there's a divorce. And therefore, in the spiritual divorce, he also cries. Spiritual, yeah. It's the same thing. The neshama was married to this. He sent you here for a reason, and you ripped it away. So he cries. So if there's no choice, there's no choice. He's going to cry, but it's a tragedy, but there's no choice. But if there's a choice, you can work on yourself harder to become fired up again. That's what you have to do. And the Rebbe lived that ideal. He made every single chassid live that ideal. No chassid was allowed to leave. I'll tell you a story. There's a shliach in Montreal who has 10 times more institutions than I have here in Weston. Whatever, maybe that's an exaggeration, but he has a lot going on. A yeshiva and that girls' school. It's in Montreal is a huge Jewish community. So he doesn't day to day oversee and run everything, but he made it all. He was influential in all these things. You know what he does half the day of his life? Every day, half of the day, he teaches 7-year-olds. He's teaching yeshiva in the Chabad.
That's great.
You know why?
Because that's what this
Because the Rebbe never let him leave teaching. You're a teacher. You have a talent to teach. You ain't leaving. There's no such a thing, divorcing a shlichus.
Yeah.
You cannot divorce your shlich. God put you in the neshama there. Who gives you the right? You don't like it. The halacha is not like Rabbi Akiva. The halacha is like Beis Hilel. And Beis Hilel doesn't give you. He says you could if it's compromising you. And then the church is compromising. And even if it is, he says you don't have to. Work harder. Build a relationship. Save the marriage. He looks at it like a marriage. You're going to just walk away from a marriage? Just because you're allowed to? Work on it. Build a marriage up. Find the love again. Find excitement. You compromise. Your fire is burnt up. Your dish is burned. You don't have it anymore. No.
Get a new stove.
Get a new stove. Get a new pot. Get a new. Do something. Don't walk away. You're allowed to walk away, but it doesn't mean you have to. Go beyond the letter of the law. A chassid goes beyond the letter of the law. This is a powerful idea, by the way. You should know. Don't they? This is not. This guided thousands and thousands of Jews in the Rebbe's days. He really lived by this, and he encouraged others to live by this. You don't just walk away. It's responsibility. Responsibility for a Yid. It's a tremendous idea. What do you mean? I have influence on Yidden over here. What do you mean you're walking away? They need you. And what's going to be if you walk away? The next guy may not be as good as you.
Probably
Or maybe he'll be better, but for some people he won't. You don't know. So what do you mean you're walking away? Because for you it's better. Who are you? Why are you thinking only about yourself? The thing is more attracted. The halacha is not like Rabbi Akiva. The halacha is like Beis Hilel, and even by him, he only gives you a license. But work on the marriage.
But there
The Rebbe saw the neshama and the place he lives like a marriage. Yeah.
There must have been some reason, because you're talking about Rabbi Akiva. You're not talking about just anybody.
So, yeah, I explained in the JLI what the meaning, what was his intent. After the class, I'll explain to you if you want. But the point is, the Rebbe said this Sicha, by the way, in 1959. The Rebbe said this talk in 1959.
But people move
Those
from
days.
places all
They
the
shouldn't.
time.
And that's not so right.
Okay, so then none of us would
Not so
be
right.
here.
You mean
You're here. Bashgacha Pratis, everyone is here.
But the difference between Hashgacha Pratis and not, should I have stayed in Brooklyn? In
You
other
didn't.
words,
You were here. It's not a question of what you should have done. You're looking back. Look forward, not backwards.
Can't leave.
Right.
No, not maybe. No, some people. I'll tell you
Because I
something.
know.
There's some people that I say, I think for you it would be better to be in a larger Jewish community. Because if I feel that they're unable to maintain Yiddishkeit in a small Jewish community, they have to go. But that's already a matter of immorality. The halacha is you have to go. But if Yiddishkeit is not compromised, I want to tell you something. Balchuvas, people that are newcomers to Judaism, what we call Balchuvas, Every time I use that word, I use it with, I'll tell you a story about Balchuva. There was a chassid, Rabbi Heischke Gansberg, he lived in Crown Heights all the years. And he himself, in the second marriage, married a Balas Tshuva. So he used to have in his house, they used to have weekends in Crown Heights where they would bring 100 Balchuvas, or not even Balchuvas, but people that are becoming more religious, and those are already more religious. They'd converge on Crown Heights for a weekend retreat, and they would have classes and lectures, and they'd go to the Rebbe's Fabrengen. It was it was a weekend of heaven for these people, literally. I remember our house, we always used to have the people stay at our house. So his table was always full of Balchuvas. There was one such Friday night, and they're all in his house. And there was one guy that was not, I guess, not too smart, one not Baal Tshuva, and they were talking about marriage. The subject of marriage came up. So he said, I will never marry a Baal Tshuva. That's what he said. Stupid statement, Meshuyas. The place was like stunned. You imagine Rabbi Gansberg has to now clean up this guy's mess, right? So he turned to him and said, look, you can marry one of two people. Either a Baal Tshuva or a Baal Avera. You can choose which one you want. You can marry a penitent or a sinful person. You have the one. Those are the two choices you have. He himself married a Baal Tshuva. But the point is, what was I saying about Baal Tshuvas, right? In my humble opinion, there's no better community for a Baal Tshuva than the community where he became a Baal Tshuva. No, he should never leave that community, no matter what. I'll tell you why. The person that made him a Baal Tshuva, that helped him become Baal Tshuva, the rabbi, the shliach, he's completely dedicated to that person. There's no one that's going to love him as much as that first original rabbi that brought him into it. He'll go to another big community, he'll get swept in, no one's going to look at him. I don't mean that quite literally, but it will never be the same. The person that made him, that taught him, knows him best, he knows his neshama best, and he will guide him, and that's where he should stay. Unless there really is no choice. Like if there's a Baal Tshuva someone became a Baal Tshuva in Juneau, Alaska. And there's no mikveh, there's no school, there's no nothing. He can't stay there. Such a person, the shliach, can put his kid to the online school, and his wife can travel to the ocean for 4 hours every month by plane. A regular person is not going to do that. It's just, he's not sent there by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He's not. He has to move. He doesn't have that strength, that backbone, that upbringing that can carry him through such challenges. Such a person, such a place, you must go to a bigger community. But not every place is like that. And especially when you are an influence in that community. If you are an influence in that community, you would never allow you to move. The Rebbe would never allow you to move. Who's going to take you over? What's going to be with those Jews? And believe me, every frum Yid in a Jewish community, if it's a small community, is a very big influence. The Rebbe said this in 1959, as I said. Those are days where Judaism was underdeveloped. People wanted to move. They were not happy in the places where the Rebbe sent them, or where it was hard and it was not so easy. It wasn't like today, it's media and everyone. You got into a place and there was no money and there was no nothing. You busted your brains to make it work, and it was difficult. Today it's also difficult in some places, I must say. It's difficult everywhere these days. The point is, you're married to a place, a marriage you have to work on. You have to save a marriage.
Rabbi.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Does that mean that